Welcome to Brainstorium. I'm Anna Tizard, award-winning dream punk and deeply weird fantasy author. And yes, that's me and my fiction that's deeply weird. Explore and imagine with me the most unexpected story ideas using the surrealist word game of Exquisite Corpse. Find out more and join in at annatizard.com. This is a storytelling challenge unlike anything you've tried before. Hello, imaginative people. I'm Anna Tizard, and this is episode 101 of Brainstorium. Well, that's going to take some getting used to, always saying 100 and. Well, it's pretty soggy over here in the UK, and I'm thankful for things like reading and writing and talking to you to keep me upbeat while I wait to find out whether the sky really is still blue somewhere behind all of this cloud. But like most people, I haven't quite dodged all of the viruses. I had a horrible cold about a week and a half ago, which just made me feel bruised all over. And my brain did a weird thing while I was trying to read. Actually, at times, I was trying to read with my eyes shut. Heads up, people, this doesn't work. But I was reading an article and I came across a paragraph that just listed different types of artists, like visual artists, authors, musicians, and in my weird brain fog, I felt more of a spark when I read the word musician than I did when I read the word author. I mean, yes, I was ill, so you have to make allowances for your befuddled brain at these times. But this moment stuck with me because sometimes the unconscious mind can tell you things that are in some sense true, while not being true in the ordinary logical sense. The way that stories that really linger in your mind afterwards do so because they contain something that's true, psychologically true, even if they're based on pure fantasy. Am I a musician? Well, a little bit. I play mandolin. I play the jingle for this show. That's me playing it on mandolin. But I'm kind of rusty and I haven't played with the band at my work for a really long time. It's not a goal of mine to become a performer. In fact, one of the things that really soothes me about playing the mandolin is that it's an art form where I'm not particularly attached to results. I don't have to produce anything. I do it for pure fun. Sometimes I'd say it's really worth having something like that if there is another art form, like writing, that you take seriously. I mean, writing is enormous fun, but when you start setting goals with serious intentions to publish, a level of professionalism kicks in. Of course it has to, because it's no longer just for you. So it becomes more of an interplay between sheer joy and hard work, conscientiousness and craft, because the outcome of my writing really matters to me. So why did my brain hook on the word musician more than author? And why on earth am I telling you all this? Well, that week I was working on a part of Weird Creatures, my work in progress, where a herbalist by trade visits a country village which is troubled by a deadly creature that roves under the pavement. There are folk tales around this monster, and the herbalist sits down in a local pub to listen to live storytelling and music about these legends. There's even a type of music, a rhythm, that triggers the emergence of the monster. So there's this anxiety and danger mixed in with the whimsical, curious atmosphere as the storyteller begins his tale. And yes, as Weird Creatures is now a collection of short stories that are connected by an overarching story, this bit of storytelling is in fact a story within a story within a story. Call me crazy, but I'm having a lot of fun writing this book. Maybe the reason I came up with this idea is that I've often felt that there's a music to language. When you write a good sentence, there's a rhythm to it that's pleasing. This is why poetry is so wonderful to read out or to listen to. I'm always trying to reach that kind of rhythmic beauty when I write. I love the sounds of words, and I also hear them in my head when I read, which is probably why I'm such a slow reader. You might say there's a kind of subtle rhythm to everything we do that involves skill or concentration or art. There's a series I read as a child, The Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Alexander, which I still return to as it's so beautifully written. And in the first chapter of the first book, called The Book of Three, a character refers to sword making as having a music to it. And this is prompted by the protagonist who's bashing away at a piece of metal artlessly. Well, maybe this stuck with me, this idea of music being in things. And maybe it is an accurate way of describing the essence of what I love about language, and which made me, in my virus adult state of mind, feel that pinch of recognition where I happened across the word musician, even when it was next to the word of author, which I really am. But going back to the story I've been writing for Weird Creatures, I decided, based on the promptings of my unconscious mind, because I'm into that kind of thing, I decided to draw on my affinity with music a bit more, especially as it was so relevant to that particular story. I looked up a YouTube video of an accordionist playing a drone and improvising over the top of that. It reminded me that improvisation is a thing for me, not just with story brainstorming and writing, but it's something I've explored quite a lot through mandolin and the violin before that when I was in a band. Improvisation, to me, is part of the vital magic of art, in music and in writing. It's these moments of discovery and surprise where the real joy of it just opens up. So whether you play an instrument or not, whether you consider yourself to be musical or not, enjoying listening to music proves that you have a musicality to your mind, that you can connect with these rhythms and melodies and cadences. And there is a music to language as well. You'll notice it especially if you read something you've written out loud, and a lot of authors recommend doing that to help you check the flow and the pace of your sentences. But how about this as an experiment? Take a scene or a story that you've written that you'd like to develop a bit more. Could it be enhanced if there's background music? It might be a busker being nosy about the character's conversation, so you could add another element like that. Or there could just be music playing in the background that might distract your protagonist and make them feel whimsical or feel like dancing. Or it might even make them feel angry or bitter if the tune is evocative of a memory for them. Try looking up a piece of music that you think would fit your scene. Have a listen and see what else it suggests. Can you describe the way the atmosphere interweaves with the character's thoughts and emotions if you decide to actually have that music in the scene as something that your character hears? And does this add something to your story? Another thing to try would be to just listen to a piece of music, anything that doesn't have lyrics, something instrumental, and see where it takes your imagination. It could be classical, a movie soundtrack, but maybe go for something you're not too familiar with. I know if I listen to the Jurassic Park theme tune, I'm going to be mentally running away from some really large toothy creatures. But hey, that might be a way to imagine something like that if you want to enter a story that's riddled with dinosaurs and screaming. I love Celtic session music, like Irish, Scottish or English traditional music without lyrics generally, jigs and reels, that kind of thing. And growing up, I used to hear this sort of music in my head when I was reading the Narnian books. Whenever there was like a happy celebratory moment, I could sort of see the centaurs and other talking animals dancing through the forest. But there are slower pieces too in this type of music, like airs. And these can help you feel like you're being told a story. And many of them do actually have stories behind them, so that's not very surprising. By the way, I have found a publishing opportunity for short stories that explore music. So if this topic interests you, make sure you stay tuned for that. And if you'd like to hear the inception of my Herbalist Village monster story, check out episode 44 of Brainstorium. There were actually 2 exquisite corpses in that show which came together quite bizarrely to produce the beginnings of this idea that I've been describing. And one of them was The Hidden Pavement ate the bamboozled accordionist, which I took literally, clearly. So that's in episode 44. It's been a long time coming, not just for the accordionist. So, before we get into the new story brainstorms, I have some wonderful stories and poems to share from talented listeners who responded to a curious word combination from the last show, the mirrored Ifrit. An Ifrit being a malevolent or cunning demon or jinn, often depicted as a winged creature of smoke. Elena Dennison wrote a poem called Villanelle for Accra, the mirrored Ifrit. The mirrored Ifrit wakes, undone by gentle flame, his obsidian chest now dulled beneath love's spell. He wanders misty moors, whispering her name. Once forged for wrath, he burns with softer aim, a pinkish hue where crimson terror fell. The mirrored Ifrit wakes, undone by gentle flame. His horns, once proud, now tilt in weary shame. He limps through dawns he never meant to dwell. He wanders misty moors, whispering her name. What siren's song or Lamia's gaze became the curse that cracked his fire's hardened shell? The mirrored Ifrit wakes, undone by gentle flame. He tends the broken lands once ravaged by his blaze, a creature born of ruin, now compelled to quell. He wanders misty moors, whispering her name. So stands Accra, remade, reversed, the same. A softened echo where his darkness fell. The mirrored Ifrit wakes, undone by gentle flame. He wanders misty moors, whispering her name. Gosh, this is haunting and kind of majestic. And there's a sort of emotional or psychological interpretation of being mirrored, being turned around by the state of being in love and sort of being trapped at the same time. Thank you so much, Elena Dennison. Paul Monteith wrote, Ifrit through the looking glass. An Ifrit was overwhelmed by sadness. The wizard of ash and ember was using his fiery dragon scales as a cape. Trapped inside the looking glass, there was not much that he could do to retrieve his flame. Looking in the mirror, the wizard smiled as he turned side to side to admire the fiery cape's fit. No longer the Wizard of Ash and Ember, now my coven must rename me Wizard of Fire and Ash. The Ifrit turned from the mirrored surface and shuffled through the soda-lime world of liquid silk towards the silver reflective surface at the rear. The wizard had promised that the mirror was a portal, and if the Ifrit passed through its glass face, he would find himself home in the underworld of 7 Earths. The price of entering the portal, the wizard had said, was that he must leave something behind, such as one of his flaming scales. Desperate to get home, the Ifrit had thought the price of 1 scale was worth the shortcut home. As he pressed through the glass pane, the mirror took not 1 fire scale, but all of them. The lime soda glass had not only shorn him of his scales, but had clipped his magic and power too. He looked at his reflection in the silver layer. Gone was the grandeur of crimson-orange flame, his mane of fire extinguished, and his wings sparked no more. He was only smoke, a soot smudge, and he shed a tear. Wow, there's so much packed into this. It's so atmospheric, and I love the idea of a portal costing you something. A magic for a magic. Thank you, Paul. You can find Paul Monteith on Blue Sky as Quantum Fairy. Paul Macmillan wrote, "You find it in the attic, tucked behind a truly offensive fondue set from Auntie Mildred. It is a hand mirror, the kind with a silver back, now sporting more personality than shine. You wipe it on your sleeve, and your own face stares back, a bit bewildered by the cobweb in your hair. The reflection rolls its eyes. You did not." "Oh, brilliant," it says, in your voice, but with the weary tone of someone who's just been handed the short straw. Another one who can't resist polishing things. "Do you have any idea how many centuries I've been stuck up here because of people like you?" You drop it. It clatters onto a box of Christmas decorations. "Ow! Rude." The Ifrit, for that is what sulks within the glass, is less a creature of nightmare and more of an inconvenience. It follows you now, appearing in every reflective surface, not to haunt you, but to offer unsolicited commentary on your life choices. "That shirt again. Is that your 3rd donut? Your posture's atrocious." It doesn't want your soul. It wants better company, and frankly, it's starting to think the fondue set had more going for it. Oh, this is brilliant. So funny, and just so neatly tied off at the end with a bow when you return to the fondue set. Thanks so much, Paul. Paul Macmillan writes fantasy fiction, and you can find him on X as Bookmarks, Love and Lore. Right, I think it is time to reach once more into the socks of destiny. That's right, Exquisite Corpse mixes your words and phrases into a very strange sentence that goes describing word noun, action, describing word noun. I'll play 3 rounds to create 3 very strange sentences, and we shall hunt for story ideas and writing prompts, any we can find in these sentences. So it's with some trepidation that I reach into the describing word sock for our first word, which is from Sean, also known as Blue Wizard Facts. Velvety. Okay, something or someone was velvety. But who or what? Our noun is from Paul Thomas. Sleuth. A velvety sleuth. Why am I picturing a mole? Okay, keep going. It's always good to keep going. I'm reaching for an action, which is again from Sean, Blue Wizard Facts. Dropped upon from the trees. Okay, this is a very, very specific action. Sometimes it's good to have a strong, very concrete feeling action. Who knows what will come of it. Okay, next word is from Alessandro Bozzo. Antsy. So sort of restless and I always think a bit itchy, you know? Next, final word is from Sophie de Soles. Who or what was antsy? Theoretical physicist. Okay. So altogether we have the velvety sleuth dropped from the trees, the antsy theoretical physicist. We're off to a very peculiar start, people. Interesting, the idea of this sleuth ambushing a physicist, spying, which is something that you might well expect from a sleuth. They're investigating this physicist. So I think because of this theoretical physicist, it's making me picture a campus with trees, a nice green campus, and physicists get into arguments with each other. Or maybe they're all smilingly pleasant to each other, to each other's faces, but then it's all very passive-aggressive, the disagreements they get into. And that might be why there's this pent-up energy of anger, of being antsy. Things unsaid. But why? Why is this so conflicted? I mean, maybe it's a university of just physics. So the competition, if they're all teaching different kinds of physics or different interpretations, different theories, then maybe there's this underlying competition going on of who's actually in the right. But perhaps it's become so conflicted, someone has thought to hire a detective to find out what's going on or to spy on a particularly antsy theoretical physicist. What is going on here? Oh, but the velvety sleuth. So I was actually misreading this as the velvety sleuth. Smooth? The velvety sleuth dropped from the trees onto the antsy theoretical physicist, but there is no onto. So it actually means, if you read it literally, that the velvety sleuth dropped from the trees the antsy theoretical physicist, i.e. the velvety sleuth had somehow was holding them captive in the trees and then dropped them. So the sleuth has captured a theoretical physicist and accidentally drops them. There is no ambush. But then again, they still captured them in the first place. Maybe, I'm just trying to think, how does a physicist get stuck up a tree? Maybe this is the fundamental, ridiculous question at the bottom of this exquisite corpse. I'm not quite sure how to answer it. I have, in my mind, physicists are floating around, sometimes getting caught in trees. They have long cloaks that get snagged on the branches. Maybe they float typically because the effects of their theories are physical. So they talk about the strange possibilities of atoms and things kind of moving of their own accord, and that causes them to kind of float around and move their own accord. This is all very strange, but yeah, I think we need to move on to the next exquisite corpse. Let's try for a new describing word. And let's move away from the floating physicists. This is from Mostly Paul, Quantum Fairy, that's Paul Monteith. Wobbling. Okay. From floating to wobbling. Our noun is from Alessandro Bozzo. Ibis. So this is, I made a note for myself because it can be more than one thing. It can be a large wading bird with a long down-curved bill, long neck, long legs, or it's an object of religious veneration in ancient Egypt, associated with a deity called Jehuti, otherwise known in Greek mythology as Thoth, responsible for writing, maths, measurement and time, as well as the moon and magic. Gosh. So in a single word, ibis, we have a lot of options to choose. Either a bird or a creature from mythology. But in this case, they were wobbling. I'm leaning towards the bird with the long, skinny legs. But hey-ho, let's just see what happens with the action. This is from Sophie de Soles. Fell head over heels for. Now, hang on a second, they're already wobbling. So I feel like taking this literally, falling over. But let's just see, is it a romance? Next word is from Anonymous. Smart. That could be someone to fall head over heels in love with. Final word is from Paul Thomas. Oh my goodness. Meme Gracer. So this is, I had to look this up. This is from Ojibwa folklore. I might not be pronouncing this correctly. A hairy-faced, mischievous dwarf spirit or little person that lives in rocks near water and steals shiny things. Okay, so altogether, the wobbling ibis fell head over heels for the smart Meme Gracer. I think I'm going to have some green tea first. What do you reckon? This has been brewing long enough, I feel. Give it a quick stir. That'll do. Okay. Oh, this is really weird. So the wobbling ibis fell head over heels for the smart Meme Gracer, which is a short creature who likes stealing shiny things. But not being a romance writer, I'm tempted to go with the literal interpretation of this wobbling ibis falling head over heels, splashing into the waters of the stream where it stands, at the sight, being so surprised at the sight of this Meme Gracer. In fact, if we make our ibis a long-legged, graceful person, hey, is it weird that they're really tall and the Meme Gracer is really short? What a stark contrast to come across in a single exquisite corpse. I like this. So if we, to make things easier to interpret, being a contemporary fantasy author, I'm more drawn to an ordinary real-life setting where magic or impossible things interrupt normality, disrupt normality. So someone tall with long legs they've been walking in the woods. They're cooling off their feet in a stream. And this is why they're wobbling, because of the sharp biting cold of the water, rushing over their ankles and numbing their feet. But also the awkward shapes of the pebbles on the stream bed make her wobble as she steps along, looking for sticklebacks and small fish. A glint of something shiny catches her eye, but it's just her wristwatch, a reflection on the water, as she spreads her arms to try and keep her balance. But wait, where is it? It's not on her wrist anymore. She doesn't remember taking it off. She glances to the bank, and there, standing right there on the bank, staring back at her with a toothy smile of glee, is an odd, furry little man with hair spiked in all directions, like a child's drawing of the sun. With a deep giggle that sends goosebumps prickling up her arms, the creature holds out in its swarthy little hand her wristwatch. "How much will you pay to get this back?" he says. What next then? Does it want her to carry out a task for it? Does it want to find a way to sneak into the human world? Or does it want more riches from the human world? Does it want her to tell a secret that no one else knows? Can you pay with the truth? It may depend on what that truth is. Or does he make a worse bargain than that? That's what a smart mimic racer will do. He doesn't just run off with a human's wristwatch, shiny as it is, but uses it to make a bargain for something much more valuable. So it could be the beginning of something. Depends. Yeah, just have a think about that, if that might form a springboard for you as to what happens next. Right, in the meantime, one final exquisite corpse, with the first word from Paul Thomas. Snow-covered. Okay. Next word or phrase is from, Anonymous. Desert cat. How does a desert cat get to be snow-covered? This cat gets about. Okay, an action. This is from Alessandro Bozzo. Aimed for the head of. Okay, it sounds like this is some kind of battle. In the midst of a battle. Who else is in this battle? Next word is from, if I can disentangle it from my hand. Anonymous. Lots coming from Anonymous today. But is it the same Anonymous? Nonchalant. So you're in battle, but you're not that bothered about it? This is peculiar. Okay, last word is from Alessandro Bozzo. Driver. Okay. Oh my goodness. This is, gosh, they're really tricky today. Is it just me? The snow-covered desert cat. Like, what is going on with that? That is a proper contradiction. Aimed for the head of the nonchalant driver. Driver of what? Just a car or a truck or something else? You know what it makes me think of? A cat aiming for someone's head. It makes me think of how some cats will climb you and try and sit on your head, especially someone who is nonchalant. In other words, if you don't care, some cats will just kind of make a beeline for you and start climbing you until you relent and realise that you love them. That's cats for you. But this cat, this is a desert cat, and it's been places. It belongs in the desert, but it is now snow-covered. And there's a driver in this story as well. So that's making me think about travel. Has he driven them both to snowy climes? Are they partway up a mountain? Was he planning a skiing holiday? But then this must be part of some sort of round-the-world trip, and somewhere along the way, a desert cat has crept into his rented car and made a little nest there without him realising. And now she stares out the window at snow-encrusted mountains, unlike anything she's ever seen before. But how can this be? How can someone travel through such different places that must be so many miles apart in a single rented car? Something strange has happened. As he was leaving the desert, having thoroughly enjoyed riding a camel, admiring some beautiful architecture that studded the sun-blazed horizon, there he is, trundling along his car, and next moment he's in a snowscape, and there's a freaked-out cat in the back, now aiming for his head. Holiday gone wrong? A mysterious portal he went through so fast he didn't even notice? It's up to you what you make of this. Okay, now, so this is a tricky one because there isn't one word combination that's really jumping out at me, like, pick me, pick me. If anything, today it's been more about the entire sentences coming together and producing images or situations, like the rambler whose watch gets stolen by a hairy little man, and the velvety sleuth who captures and then drops from a tree a theoretical physicist. But I think, in a way, that one calls to me a bit more because there are gaps in it. Sometimes stories get me like that. The sensation of inspiration is often coupled with this feeling that you haven't quite worked it out yet. Your curiosity is turning it over and your mind won't quite let go of it because it doesn't make sense yet. It kind of makes me think of what my hubby Duncan is always saying, that our monkey brains want to solve problems. And for better or worse, that can be a big reason why we can't let go of a certain train of thought. But thinking of these gaps and how the velvety sleuth doesn't quite bring a clear enough image to my mind before I roll the dice to choose a couple of categories of interpretation, I think I need a bit more on this phrase to work out what it could mean. There's nothing quite like looking up a word you already know the meaning of to see if there's anything you've overlooked. A doorway into a new sense of the word. A Google search on sleuth versus detective tells us that a detective is typically a professional investigator, either police or private, hired to solve crimes or find information, whereas a sleuth is a broader term, but more often used informally or lightheartedly for anyone sort of skilled in solving mysteries. It says that sleuth comes from sleuth hound, but it doesn't really go into that, so I thought I'd pull out my slightly ancient but ever trusty hardback Oxford Concise Dictionary. This sleuthhound origin from Middle English is in the sense to track. But going back further, this comes from sloth or sloth. It's got an accent over the O in Old Norse, meaning trail. And it references a particular use of the word slot. Well, looking up this use of the word slot and rapidly turning into a sleuth myself as I do so, it means the track of a deer visible as slotted footprints in soft ground. Who knew that sleuthing as a concept is originally about footsteps marked in the ground. It makes me think of snow. I once sat in a forest on my own and a strange feeling made me turn around. I assumed I was just being watched by a squirrel, but I saw the retreating back of a deer and was astonished. For largish animals that don't actually have the power of invisibility, they are strangely good at disappearing. They're not even stripy to blend into the trees, so I'm not sure how they do it. Anyway, now I'm associating sleuth with quietness, an inherent, almost animal skill. So quiet that all you might find are the footprints left in the mud or snow. And what about velvety? Well, this can apply to a voice, velvety voice, or texture of skin, clothing. Well, in my dictionary, velvet is just velvet, although it gave me slight tingles to note that there is a second definition of velvet, which is the soft, downy skin that covers a deer's antler while it's growing. So we're back to deer again. How did that happen? This random junction of words that seemed unconnected, but now not so much. Okay, this by no means gives us an obvious or complete doorway into the velvety sleuth, but it's still a beginning, which of course is what a writing prompt really is. Now I'm going to roll my 8-sided dice twice, because that rhymes, and see if these thoughts can come together somehow in a new way. As usual, you can see the full list of 8 categories in the show notes. Here goes. Wish me luck. 1. A book, magazine, or newsletter. The Velvety Sleuth? Actually, I'd buy that out of curiosity. It would have to be a hardback with a velvet cover and will contain all sorts of stories of a sleuth who is too soft for her own good. A sleuth who can seduce with just the sound of her oh so soothing velvety voice and get people to open up and spill their secrets. A sleuth who disappears swift as a deer among the trees. Who unnerves people by appearing suddenly in places where they felt assured they were alone. Does she have any magical powers that make her this way? Maybe the stories would be more intriguing if you never quite find out. Not until right at the very end. They keep you guessing. Let me try something else. 2. A job or role taken on reluctantly. Okay. Well, this makes total sense. Although it would be quite unusual for someone to be asked to do some sleuthing when they don't want to or don't enjoy it. But still, in a way, this gives us a chance to consider the velvety sleuth from a different perspective, as someone who has resisted sleuthing for some time. Or maybe she's just new to the role and she never noticed before that she has these skills of being able to slip away easily and disappear or reappear so quickly that she unnerves people. Maybe these talents or skills only emerge when she starts, reluctantly or hesitantly, to investigate a mystery. It unlocks something in her she's never known before. It's like she starts to become a different person. Maybe she's always been the most ordinary person she knows. She considers herself to be a bit bland, a bit boring. She might have had some ambitions at one point. Maybe she wanted to be an actress, but things didn't work out, and she more or less accepted failure and decided that there's nothing really interesting about her. Kind of self-deprecating from a bad experience. But then there's a murder in her neighbourhood. People start gossiping. The police come round to question her and ask her some very odd questions about what she did the day before the murder. Things she saw, details she finds she can remember clearly despite them being really banal. And while she tries to put the whole thing out of her mind, she can't help it. Something makes her get up in the middle of the night and creep over to the empty house where her neighbour was killed. Her senses sharpen in the dark. She can smell the blood before she sees the stains in the carpet. But then, as she's crouching in the lounge, looking at a bloody footprint, the front door clicks open and she darts behind the sofa. Someone dressed in black starts nosing around, looking for something. Is it the murderer returning to the scene? Or someone working for them? But this is how she discovers her talent for hiding and staying so quiet that she remains undiscovered until the early hours when the police turn up and find her crouched behind the sofa. Ooh, I quite like this. Could this work as a short story rather than something much longer? I especially like the potential element of magic here. I mean, if someone's going to read a mystery, why not throw in an additional mystery about that protagonist? Right, now for some additional motivational power, some submission call-outs for you. Just bear in mind, I've come across these opportunities in the wilds of the World Wide Web, and I don't know these publishers personally. Whoever you choose to publish with, always run a check on Google to see what people have said about them and check their terms and conditions to see if they will suit you. The Writers' Co-op are looking for stories that encapsulate weirdness itself for the 9th edition of their annual anthology called The Rabbit Hole. Submissions are open until the 30th of April, and the book is scheduled to be released in October. Talk about a speedy turnaround. They're looking for unusual, uncanny, or whimsical stories between 200 words and 5,000 words, so quite a wide range there. Find out more at writerscoop.wordpress.com. That's writerscoop.wordpress.com, and co-op doesn't have a dash, so it reads like Writers Coop or Writers Scoop. Click under the Rabbit Hole tab to find the submissions page and all the details there. Rooted Lit Mag is now accepting submissions for their spring anthology exploring the theme of music, in case you're inspired by my ramblings in the introduction. They invite creatives of all genres to explore how music weaves through the fabric of our lives. Flash fiction up to 1,000 words, short stories up to 5,000 words, or up to 3 poems. You can also submit visual art, audio or video. This call is open until 2nd of April. You just go to rootedlitmag.com, that's rootedlitmag.com, and click on the Submissions Guidelines tab. Raconteur Press have numerous submission call-outs for various anthologies on different themes. All for longer stories between 5,000 and 8,000 words. They have specific open dates as well as close dates for submissions, and they ask that you don't submit early. Of the different themes, The Muse Within Us opens from 6th of March and closes on the 17th of April. This is about stories where the act of creation itself becomes unearthly or touched by supernatural forces. Kind of like on this show, I'd say. Pet Monsters is another theme, which opens from 3rd of April and closes on 15th of May. I think that theme may be pretty self-explanatory. Also, there's a later one I noticed on weird warfare. So if you like writing fight scenes, that could be one for you. So there's all sorts going there. Go to raconteurpress.substack.com. That's raconteurpress.substack.com, and click the Open Calls 2026 tab on the right-hand side. The page lists many calls, the top ones being already closed. So just keep scrolling down until you find something you like the sound of and that's open. And I know I've talked about this before on and off, but this time I think it is time. I want to start a new page at annatizard.com where I can showcase your Exquisite Corpse inspired stories and poems wherever they are published, when they are published, providing links so that people can look them up. So drop me a line when you've published a Brainstorium-inspired piece of writing, and I will happily feature it on the Brainstorium Emporium. Because how can I not call it that, right? I already have 2 writers whose works qualify. They just need to be published somewhere and inspired by an Exquisite Corpse from the show. But I'd like to get it started with 3 as the baseline, because that's a good solid number, right? Could it be you? Well, you'd better get scribbling then. But in the meantime, if you have a short story up to 250 words or a poem that you'd like me to read out in the next show, you know what to do. Go to my submit page under the Brainstorium tab at annatizard.com. What would you make of the Velvety Sleuth, or any other word combination that's come up on the show? Go on, surprise me. And lastly, don't forget to look up the Spotlight Indie Big Weekend, which I mentioned last time, because it's all up on YouTube now, because it was last weekend. On the Friday recording, there's a panel discussion that I was part of on writing better beginnings. But there are loads of events, discussions, interviews, and so on, all about writing and indie publishing. So check them out. I've put a link in the show notes, but if you just do a search on YouTube for Spotlight Indie, you will surely find their channel. Until next time, go forth and be inspired. I hope you enjoyed today's Brainstorium. You can find out more about Exquisite Corpse and my series, The Book of Exquisite Corpse, at annatizard.com. Subscribe to my e-newsletter and you'll get Volume 1 for free. And while you're there, why not submit a few words to the Socks of Destiny on my play page? You may inspire me or inspire yourself to write a unique new story. See you next time.